Hello, and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinale, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. If this is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. Like and subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube. If you are listening to this on YouTube, you might notice that this is a video. I'm trying to venture into video podcasting because I've been trying to promote my podcast on TikTok for a little while now. And I've realized that videos of me just talking to a camera on TikTok do better than podcast clips. And I don't think it's because I'm less interesting or funny on my podcast. I think people just prefer to watch somebody talk sometimes more than they prefer to just listen. I will have audio only versions, of course, on all the podcasting platforms. So that is available to you, of course, if that is something you're interested in. So as the title suggests, this will be my recap about the first two episodes of Percy Jackson season 2. Before I get started, I have a few disclaimers. One, I don't know when this episode will be out, and there's a good chance episode 3 of this season 2 of Percy Jackson, the Olympians, will have already aired by the time this recap of episodes 1 and 2 go out. Also, I already recorded this. I recorded an hour and 40 minutes and the audio sucked. I didn't test it at all before. I have since tested my audio many times and it doesn't seem like I'm having the same issue that I did in the hour and 40 minutes that is completely unusable. So hopefully this works. I am going to just record this and pray that it works. And if I'm having some kind of technical issue again, then I'm going to go to bed and I'll figure out what's going on and re-record again tomorrow for a third time. Prayer circle, that doesn't happen. We'll see. I have since tested my audio, done many trials. I think that it's in a good place. So apologies for that. This is a new era of the Emmy Awards, so we're figuring things out as we go. Okay. Percy Jackson and the Olympians season 2, episode 1. Is called I Play Dodgeball with Cannibals. Yellow Jackets Corps. We get like a recap for season 1. I'm assuming you've watched it. If you haven't, I'll fill in some stuff that comes up. But hopefully you know the gist. Percy Jackson, his dad is Poseidon. He finds out. They accuse him of stealing Zeus's lightning bolt. It wasn't him. It was this guy named Luke who he meets at Camp Half-Blood. His mom also dies, but doesn't. He saves his mom from the underworld. The Minotaur kills her, but also doesn't. All of these things. It's a whole journey. Great story. You should read the book or watch the series. So that's the gist. But when backstory comes up, I'll explain. So episode 1 opens with Grover. He is a satyr and Percy's best friend. He's on an island and he's looking for Pan. Grover's search for Pan is really like his main arc throughout the whole series. And basically at the end of season 1, he gets his searcher's license to go look for Pan. He asks Pan for a sign. Lightning strikes and he thinks, okay, Pan's giving me a sign. He comes across a flute on this island in the woods. He sanitizes it. And then we see somebody is watching him in the bushes. He plays the flute. The trees move and tie up the people. It's not just one person. It's like a group of people who were hiding in the bushes, waiting for him. And he recognizes somebody named Allison Sims and asks what the campers are doing here. He's like, campers aren't allowed to search for Pan. And she says they're not campers anymore. And they just want to see what he found. Fun fact, Allison Sims not in the book. Don't really think that's negative. I also have to say, in the book, basically the whole season, they're looking for the Golden Fleece. That's the quest. Spoiler. I mean, that's revealed in these 2 episodes. But it's kind of, from my recollection in the book, it's not super, like, we don't get these scenes of Luke's team looking for the fleece. It's just eventually, like, they're like, obviously, Luke's team is looking for the fleece. But this was a nice way to open it, like establishing some things. Anyways, the flute has, like, a gold hair. And she like picks it up and she's like, where's the rest of it? He doesn't know what she's talking about. And she says, this is another dead end. Luke will not be happy. And he's like, you're part of Luke's rebellion. He's confused. Like, what does Luke want with Pan? Why is Luke looking for Pan? the group of demigods bring up their weapons to attack Grover, and he plays his flute. The leaves and the branches and the vines and everything trap these demigods, and he gets away. As he is nearing the ocean, because again, he's on an island, a sea creature grabs him and drags him into the ocean. Percy wakes up from a nightmare where he watched all of this happen, and there's a voiceover where he talks about how, like, you have nightmares too, demigods' dreams normally are trying to kill us, all of these things, which I love Percy's narration. I think they did a really good job this season of getting Percy's narration in it, and the levity that I felt like was missing in season 1, I feel like is really here and very present. I really, really enjoyed it. A fun detail too is Percy rolls out of bed and his sheets are like tied in his leg, like the way the tentacle grabbed Grover. So it's like a nice little connection that I thought was a really, really great detail. In his voiceover, Percy also talks about how normally he would talk through this kind of situation with his friends, but phones attract monsters. They like send a signal to monsters that a demigod is near. So you cannot have phones, but luckily he doesn't have to wait long to tell his friends because camp is happening soon. He has a photo of Grover on his wall, one of Annabeth. It's very cute. It's very wholesome. Percy's really clumsy. He like trips a few times, and then he trips over a gadget thing, and he goes to the kitchen, says hi to his mom, Sally, who's like making breakfast. And is like, she's like, "Oh my God, you're up early." And he's like, "It must be a last day of school miracle." He asks Tyson what the gadget thing is. And it's a compass. We get a little backstory on Tyson. He is a Cyclops. Sally met him when she was volunteering with the homeless, took him in, got him enrolled at Percy's school, all of these things. Now, this is a change from the books. In the books, Percy doesn't realize that he's a Cyclops and doesn't know all of this stuff. Like, Sally did get him in the school and like is looking after him and all these things, but Percy doesn't know he's a Cyclops. And I saw people being upset about this. I'm not really upset about this. I'm not. I think in season 1, we have Percy not being able to see through the mist. But then once he knows that he's a demigod and he can understand that there's a different world that they're living in, he can see through the mist. So I feel like it would be weird if he just like didn't see through the mist. What do you mean he can see like monsters now, but he can't tell that Tyson is a Cyclops? I think that this was a smart change. I have no issue with this change at all. Sally and Percy have a talk, and she asks if he's okay, and he mentions his nightmare, and then she says maybe she should drive them to camp tonight instead of tomorrow. And Percy's like, why are you getting his hopes up about Tyson? Because she's very much talking about like when Tyson goes to camp, Tyson's really excited to go to camp, but Tyson can't go to camp because the camp is for demigods only, and there's like a magic force field that blocks out monsters, and Tyson is technically a monster. He won't be allowed into camp. So Percy's like, why are you getting his hopes up? Like, he cannot go to camp. And Sally says that she also had a dream. It was a golden drachma spinning in on one side, a scythe on the other. The scythe obviously representing Kronos. He asks what she thinks it means, and she says maybe that two things that feel opposite or that feel so opposite or somehow, and he finishes two sides of the same coin. And she was like, I was gonna go for something more profound. And he's like, is this another talk about me and Tyson? And Tyson overhears and is like, what about me? And then Sally's like, Tyson, what do I always say? And she's like, I'll start. And she says, being a real hero. And then he finishes, means standing up for others. And he finishes in her voice, because that's another detail about Cyclops in this world. Cyclops can like verbatim sound like the person that they are quoting. Another detail too is like the tinkering. They work with in the forges of Hephaestus. So like these little details that are getting insight into like what being a Cyclops means are really cool, because Tyson is the first Cyclops we meet in the story. So we're getting like, he's good at tinkering because that's like his thing. He can repeat these things. Like it's nice, the world building we're getting, right? Little details of who Tyson is. And Sally's like, you should listen to your mom. Then Percy and Tyson are walking down the streets of New York where they live. And Tyson bumps into somebody and like pulls down his hat he's wearing. A fun detail as well is Annabeth. One of her defining objects that she has a Yankees cap that turned her invisible that her mom gave her. And the cap they have Tyson wearing is like from a rivaling team. I can't remember if it's if it's the Mets or the Knicks. I don't know if those are even the same sports. I have no recollection, but it's some kind of rival team, which is a very nice visual cue of Annabeth and Tyson being at odds, because they are at odds throughout the season, and this is a fun little way to just establish from the beginning that they are not on the same side. They are, but they're not. Anyways, I'll get into it as the seasons progress. If you know, you know. If not, you'll find out. I don't know. He pulls down his cap, and Percy's like, you don't need to do that. Like, the mist stops mortals from seeing monsters. And then he like stops himself and he apologizes, and he's like, it was unkind of me to call you a monster. I'm sorry. Tyson says that Percy has monster friends. He's like, yeah, I guess. He's like, Goater. He means Grover. And he's like, and they let him in camp. I can't wait to go to hero camp. That's what he calls it. And then Percy explains the Grover's a nature spirit, like dryads and naiads. And they work at camp, but monsters and mortals aren't allowed. And Tyson says his mom is a naiad. And then Percy's like, I thought you never knew your parents. And before he can explain, a taxi comes swerving down the street. The taxi pulls up right by them. It says Grey Sisters taxi on the side. Tyson grabs Percy to protect him because the car is swerving at them. And he reads the taxi. It says Grey Sisters Taxi Co. I don't remember exactly what it says. Percy says to put him down. And he's like, put me down, big guy. But he means it like he's saying it lightheartedly because they're friends. But Annabeth takes off her cap and is like, he said put him down, because she thinks that this is a monster who's attacking Percy. Percy's like, Annabeth. And Tyson's like, Annabeth, I recognize you. Percy talks about you all the time. And Percy's like, dude. And he's like, what? You look at her picture all the time. And then Percy asks Annabeth what's going on. He thought that she was in Virginia with her dad. And she's like, you didn't have the dream? And he's like, about Grover? And she's like, about camp. They get into the taxi. And she's explaining that in her dream, everything was on fire. And she sent an Iris message to Chiron's office, but some scary guy answered instead and like just immediately waved it away. Because basically an Iris message is the goddess Iris. Again, they can't have phones because that attracts monsters. So to communicate, they make a rainbow and they throw a drachma in, and they make an offering to Iris, the goddess of the rainbow, and they communicate that way. So she did that. This scary guy answered in Chiron's office and just like dispersed the message, didn't even speak to her. She drew a photo. So she has a photo of this man. And he is like, is it all connected? One of the sisters says, it's all connected. Your satyr friend is in a dark, dark place. Then another sister says, stop doling out sight for free. They haven't paid. And Annabeth's like, oh, I did pay. And they're like, not for that. And they point to Tyson. Extra passenger, extra fare. And Annabeth's like, I spent my last drachma to pay for Percy. And Percy's questioning the sisters about Grover. The third sister says they see all. Tyson's like, you only have one eye. And they're like, you're one to talk because he's a Cyclops. I thought that was funny. That made me laugh. The Grey sisters say they need to pay or get out. And Percy's looking for the drachma his mom gave him, because earlier when she was describing her dream, she gave him a drachma. One of the sisters says, oh, so this is your boyfriend. No wonder you dream about him, because, again, they can see everything. And it's like, I never said boyfriend. I never said that. He's like, I believe you. Super cute. I love that. He finds his coin, his drachma. He gives it to them, and they start driving. And he asks them to tell him what they know about Grover. Once they've started driving, one of the sisters is like, is Grover the other boyfriend? Percy's like, there's another boyfriend. They're like the tall one in Annabeth's dream. And one of the sisters, which is obviously Luke, and then one of the sisters is like, stop giving things away, slaps her sister in the head, and her eye flies out. Percy is then like holding the eye hostage and is like, tell me what you know about Grover. I'm not giving the eye back. They like roll down the window. They pretend they're going to throw it out. And then the Grey sisters start saying 30, 31, 75, 12. They just repeat that a few times. And Percy's like, I don't know what that means. They take their eye, and one of the other sisters who didn't have it before puts it in and says, oh, you are cute about Percy, which was fun. They drop them off at like the back end of camp. And Annabeth's surprised that everything seems fine, like nothing's on fire. And Tyson's like, this is the camp. And Percy's like, it's through the trees over the hill. Annabeth starts walking towards the camp, and Percy like walks up next to her. Tyson's behind. She says she's a little dizzy. He's like, are you good? And she's like, I'm just a little dizzy. Space Mountain doesn't have anything on the Grey Sisters. He's excited that she tried a roller coaster. She says she tried a lot of things. She wrote him, and he's like, I know, I read your letters. I wrote you as well. And she said that he'd left some things out, obviously talking about Tyson. And Percy says that Tyson's been living with them. His mom took him in, and he promised to keep an eye out for him, but he didn't think he'd be coming to camp. And Annabeth's like, Sally has to know that he can't. And Percy's like, I tried to tell her. And then he's like, but I don't want to talk about this. I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about school or Space Mountain. He just wants to connect with her on like a real level, like on a human level, not the demigod level. It's so sad. It's so sad. He did read her letters, and he feels like she left some stuff out as well. She takes a deep breath as if she's about to like tell him something. And then there's a loud sound. A giant flaming boulder comes crashing down. They start running away from the boulder. More boulders are flying down. They're avoiding them. And then Tyson eventually jumps in front of one. And Percy's like, Tyson, no. Tyson's fine because Cyclops are immune to fire. And in the book, before Percy knows that Tyson is a Cyclops, he jumps in front of it. And Percy's like, why are you okay? And Annabeth is like, he's a Cyclops. Do you not see that? They're immune to fire. They cross the border into camp. Tyson can't get into camp. The force field is preventing him. The giants who have been throwing the boulders are almost to the entrance of camp. Tyson is still on the outside. Percy and Annabeth are inside. Percy jumps out of the force field outside of the camp borders to protect Tyson, and Annabeth gives Tyson permission to enter camp. The force field border bends to allow him in, and one of the giants gets in too. Then Clarice, she's a daughter of Ares, we met her in season 1. She and a bunch of other campers who they're on guard duty. They come, they kill the giant. It's a Lastrodronian. I don't remember how you pronounce it. They're cannibals. I play dodgeball with cannibals. Therefore, in the book, they were students at his school, or they were, anyway. Clarice and some of the campers killed the giant and were like, everybody who's not on guard duty needs to be in their cabins during monster attacks. What are you doing here? Then Annabeth wonders why these giants were attacking the back of camp. Like it could have been a distraction to draw attention, draw defense, the guard people, the defense away from their true target while testing the barrier. And Percy's like, the barrier created by Thalia's tree. They run to check on the tree, and they find Luke there stabbing it with the dagger. And then he leaves on a Pegasus. Luke, as I said, maybe I didn't because I'm recording this for the second time. But Luke, in season 1, we meet him. He's the son of Hermes, and he betrays Percy. I actually don't think I said that in this recording, but I said this again. I recorded an hour and 40 minutes, so I'm so sorry. I don't remember what I said, what I haven't. But we meet Luke in season 1, and he and Annabeth and Thalia, they came to camp together, and Thalia died. Zeus turned her into a tree. Luke and Annabeth obviously had like a very deep personal relationship. Then in season 1, he stole the light. Percy was accused of, it was actually Luke. Luke is trying to side with Kronos. And I said this when I recorded this before. But the thing about Luke is he has like a very sad backstory. And obviously, like I can feel for Luke. Where Luke loses me is like, okay, I understand you hate the gods. Why are you trying to destroy the gods and replace them with a new evil? That's where you lose me, Luke. It's like, okay, if you wanted the demigods to be in power, it's like, okay, unionize. The human beings are in charge now, fuck the gods. I hear you. You're just replacing one big evil with another big evil. And you're getting all your friends, or at least a lot of like your peers, killed to do it. It's like you want to overthrow the gods. Okay, why do all your friends have to die for that to happen? is that really worth it? And I get it. You're manipulated, blah, blah, blah. People fall into cults all the time. But it's like, anyways, he leaves on his Pegasus, and Annabeth realizes that Luke poisoned the tree. And they're talking about the tree with she, her pronouns. They're like she, and Tyson's like, the tree is a girl. And Percy explains that Thalia was turned into a tree. Sorry, in my brain, her name is Talia, but it's Thalia. I'm so sorry to her. And Annabeth doesn't understand why Luke would do this. After all, Thalia and Luke came in together, like they were like a family. She doesn't understand this. She doesn't understand why Luke is being this way. And Percy says Luke isn't Luke anymore. He's lost. Clarice and the guard campers come to deal with Tyson, and Percy's like, he has permission to be here. Clarice is like, from who? Annabeth is like, me. Then Tantalus, he's the new leader of camp. Chiron was the camp director last year. And we'll get to why he's no longer the camp director in a second. And he's the guy from Annabeth's drawing. Like, Annabeth had a drawing of the guy who was in Chiron's office. It was him. He answered that Iris message and was very upset. He's upset that they woke him up when camp is fine. Tantalus knows of Percy because he introduces himself. He's famous. Tantalus asks about Tyson. They say he's a Cyclops, and he's like, okay, well then kill him. And then Poseidon claims him. Because basically when you're a demigod and you get to this camp, a lot of the times the gods don't claim you, but if they do claim you, they want to say, that's my kid. Their symbol pops up over your head. For Poseidon, it's a trident. Percy got one of those last season, and now Tyson gets one. We cut to Mr. D, Dionysus, the god of wine, who has been forced to be at this camp for like 100 years or something by Zeus because of some punishment, which is funny. But he starts laughing hysterically about Poseidon claiming Tyson, says that he tried it to himself, like, okay, whatever. Annabeth and Percy are trying to explain the whole Luke poisoning the tree thing. And Tantalus realizes that he also recognizes Annabeth. She sent an Iris message to his quarters. And she's like, you mean Chiron's office? And he's like, it's my office now. Chiron was sent away, God's orders, for being suspicious because he's a son of Kronos. And Kronos is the big bad that Luke is siding with. And Percy's like, this is stupid. Is Zeus not the son of Kronos? Why doesn't he send himself away? Annabeth stops him before he gets too riled up. But you know what? He's right. He's right. Who is Zeus if not a son of Kronos? Like, he literally vomited them up. I'm wearing, I don't know if I mentioned this, because again, how many times do I have to say that I'm recording this for the second time? But I'm wearing my Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief musical t-shirt. I just hear the he vomited them up. If you listen to the musical, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, but Mr. D is like, the camp is in worse danger than you can imagine, Percy. They're starting chariot races again. It was Tantalus's idea. It's like an old tradition that they haven't done in years. And this latest attack throws them off schedule. So obviously, like, not real danger, but it's funny. I find Dionysus much funnier in the show than I do in the book. Is that me? Is that just me? I find him way funnier in the book. I find him way funnier in the show. Tantalus says they don't have to postpone these stories of rogue demigods pairing up with monsters. Improbable. This is probably just a seasonal attack, and we need to raise morale. And what better way to do that than by doing the chariot race? Percy and Annabeth, meanwhile, are like, we need a quest to find a way to heal Thalia's tree, or camp will be destroyed. And Mr. D and Tantalus are like, well, how are you going to heal the tree? And Percy's like, well, give us a quest. And the oracle will tell us. Tantalus is like, no. And he punishes Percy. He's like, the only monster demigod alliance I'm witnessing is you and your monster brother. So you are in cabin confinement for 90 days. Which apparently is all of camp. It's the entire time he's at camp. That's so mean. Like, he didn't do anything. Okay, he brought his brother into camp. Guards walk Percy to the Poseidon cabin. Tyson's already there. And Percy's like a bit frustrated. He asks if Tyson knew the whole time that Poseidon was his dad. And he says no. But Percy's clearly like uncomfortable about this. And Percy's like, I'm sorry, I know this is a lot for you too. It's just a lot for me. I don't know what this means. And Tyson's like, it means I'm not alone anymore. I love Tyson. Annabeth knocks on the door of the Poseidon cabin, asks if Percy wants to talk, and then it's like, actually, do you want to go on a walk? We're already in trouble anyway. And he's like, I was talking to Tyson, but you do want to come in? And Annabeth is like, no, I honestly wanted to go check on Thalia's tree. She begins to walk away, but then she turns back and she's like, you said you had no drachmas for an iris message, but you had one today. And he's like, I didn't. My mom gave me one this morning. I didn't have one before. And then he's like, wait, you said that you used your last drachma to pay for my fare, which means you had at least two. So why didn't you reach out to me? And she's like, that's what I'm trying to do now. And he's like, okay, give me a few minutes. I'll talk to Tyson and then I'll head out. And she's like, don't worry about it. Just get some sleep. Percy goes back into the cabin and Tyson says, Annabeth's right. Percy should sleep. In the streets, you can't. He says a sphinx told him that his mom was a naiad and his dad was one of the gods, but he didn't know if they were being honest because he just thought the sphinx was tricking him because the monsters are really mean on the street. Tyson's like turned away from Percy and we see he has some scarring on his back. It's really. Tyson says sleep is good. It means you're safe. Percy goes to sleep. Annabeth walks to Thalia's tree. Percy is having a nightmare and he sees Grover being dropped off by the squid monster thing. We don't see its head, so it could be some kind of hybrid, but the squid tentacles, he sees Grover being dropped off on an island. Percy's then in a cave in the stream and he hears Grover's voice and he removes like a cloak that's covering a mirror. And then Grover's in the mirror. Then suddenly Grover's wearing Percy's clothes and Percy's wearing Grover's clothes. Percy's like, why are you wearing my clothes? And Grover's like, you're wearing mine. It must be the empathy link. Percy's like, an empathy link? And he's like, were you in a taxi the other day? He's like, yes. And he's like, it's the empathy link. And Percy's like, what is that? And it's like, he's like, it's when you're deeply connected to somebody. So like you feel their feelings. Very, very beautiful. Grover then is in the cave with him and Percy's like, are you in my dream and I am yours? Grover's like, I think we're creating the same dream at the same time. Then the ground shakes, the dream's collapsing, or he's coming back. Grover explains that he really is trapped in this cave. The Cyclops Polyphemus has him trapped there. He uses the fleece to trap satyrs because in searching for Pan, they are drawn to this very powerful nature magic. And so satyrs go there thinking that it's Pan, but it's actually the golden fleece, traps them and he eats them. And Percy's like, what fleece? And then he realizes that that's what Luke's team was after, the fleece, not Pan. Percy's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Grover's like, the golden fleece, it can heal anything or anyone. Grover tells Percy that he has to get him out of here, gives Percy the exact coordinates, and it's the same ones that the Grey sisters gave in the taxi, 30, 31, 75, 12. And then Percy wakes up from the dream. He looks at the map, finds the coordinates, and it's at the Sea of Monsters. He then goes to Thalia's tree where Annabeth is sleeping, and he tells her that he knows how to save camp, and that's how the episode ends. Changes that they made in this episode that weren't in the book, they cut out a lot of the school stuff, which I'm not against. I thought that was good. One of my biggest issues in season 1 was pacing, and I think that they did a good job of like, we got the gist, like they played dodgeball, but we didn't need to see all the backstory of like he thought they were students, but they were actually like, I don't know. I like that. And I also think establishing more what the mist really is and like the fact that demigods can see through it and mortals can't. Like, I think that was good. I think that was good instead of being like, sometimes he can see through it, sometimes he can't. I think it's good that he can see through the mist now. So it's not a like, he doesn't realize that they're monsters that he's playing dodgeball against. He doesn't realize that Tyson is a Cyclops. I think these are good changes. Cat Ivy. I think these are good changes that they made. So I'm not against that. I think rushing through unnecessary stuff to get to the important stuff, I think is good. I have no issue with them knowing that Tyson was a Cyclops from the beginning. The opening scene where we get them looking for the fleece thing, that wasn't in the book, and I thought that was very well done, because we kind of always know in the book that like, okay, the fleece Luke is also trying to look for the fleece, but we get it more explicitly in a very interesting way where we see Grover's journey and travels and search for Pan, and then he comes across these people. I thought that was well done and like a great detail and a great way to open the season. And also then Percy has this dream. Like I thought that was really well done. And honestly, now that I'm saying that, the second book might open with Percy having a dream of Grover being in trouble. Maybe I'm wrong. I do not remember. But I don't think this exact thing where we see, if it did happen in the book and I just made that up, I'm sorry. But I thought this was very well done. We got what we needed to get. I'm loving the way things are happening. Season 2, episode 2 is called Demon Pigeons Attack. So we open with the demon pigeons, like from their point of view. They're trying to break into camp, but the barrier stops them. The barrier created by Thalia's tree. Percy asks Annabeth how long until they break through, because obviously they're testing it. It's getting weaker. And she says it could be any time. And Percy's like, okay, so they are monsters. Like, what's their thing? Acid, poop? And she's like, they have riz or sharp feet. Talk about their plan. Percy is going to be a distraction. And when he gets in trouble, remember Article 5, subsection 3, they want to get Tantalus out of his office, basically. She puts on her hat and he's like, I'll just be here waiting to get in trouble. Tantalus is in his office. We see him try to drink water, but like he can't get it up the straw. It's very funny. It's a fun little detail. Then a satyr is like assistant satyr, who we saw in the first episode as well, but he doesn't have a name. I'm so sorry to that man. Or to that goat. He's not. He notifies Tantalus that Percy left his cabin. Tantalus then leaves his office, and we see Annabeth remove her invisibility hat. She's been in there. She's just been waiting for him to leave. She looks around the office. She finds a drachma. She like makes a little rainbow to have an iris message, and she calls Chiron. He says he's in Miami, but he's forbidden from contacting campers. And she's like, but I'm not forbidden from contacting you. And he's like, clever as always. And then we cut back to Percy. He's talking to Chris Rodriguez about his chariot for the race. And then Clarice butts in and kind of shit talks him in a flirty way. Chris, not Percy. This was a really nice detail because Chris Rodriguez is a character who becomes more important in the later books, especially his relationship with Clarice becomes more important. So this was nice. I don't remember if we get it established that they had some kind of flirtation before. I don't remember this. So I don't know. Percy's like smiling watching them, and Clarice tells Percy to shut up. Isn't he supposed to be in lockdown? Then Tantalus walks up and says, indeed he is. Percy loudly is like, good news. I found a way to save camp from destruction. Tantalus pulls him to the side. He's like, the gods took away my ability to eat, not to hear. Like, you don't have to yell so loud. And Percy's like, I know how to fix the barrier. And we cut to Chiron and Annabeth's conversation, and Chiron says the golden fleece. Like, it was weaved, the back and forth of these scenes was done really well, in my opinion, where Percy's like, I know how to fix the barrier. And then Chiron says the golden fleece. So we're being told the information. But anyways, two simultaneous conversations. He says the golden fleece has been lost for ages, and Annabeth says they have the coordinates. It came to Percy in a dream. Chiron is like, oh, Percy. Then we cut back to Percy and Tantalus' conversation, and he's giving the coordinates to Tantalus. And Tantalus is like, I have a number too, 90. That's how many days you're supposed to be in cabin confinement because you broke the rules. And Percy's like, you know what? Thank you so much for bringing up the rules. And he pulls up his the handbook, and he's like, Article 5, subsection 3, campers under house arrest or cabin confinement, whatever you want to call it, are allowed to leave cabin confinement to participate in camp-wide activities like the chariot race. Then we cut back to Annabeth and Chiron's conversation, and Annabeth tells Chiron that they need a quest for the fleece, but Tantalus won't authorize it. Chiron says there's something far greater at stake, the great prophecy. Percy cannot go on that quest. Tantalus and Percy's conversation, Tantalus says to Percy, you think you're very smart? And he says, no, not really. That made me laugh. I love Percy. Tantalus is betting against Percy at the race. Chiron says to Annabeth that Kronos is behind the poisoning of the tree. He sent Luke to do it, and he does nothing by chance. He wants this quest to happen so they can't allow Percy to fall into Kronos' trap. Annabeth says she can't lie to Percy, and Chiron says not only can you not tell him, he can't know that there's something he can't know. Percy is dusting off the old Poseidon chariot, and then Annabeth approaches, and Percy asks what Chiron's, and she says that he said that she needs to win the chariot race. Whoever does gets a boon from the gods. Percy doesn't know what a boon is. It means like a favor, or which was funny. And she says she'll ask for a quest. And he wants them to team up. He's like, your mom invented the chariot. My dad invented horses. Together we'd be unstoppable. And she's like, that's why we have to be apart. We double our chances. And he's like, okay, great. And then whoever wins takes the other one on a quest. And she's not being straight up with him. Like, she's not like, yeah, I'll take you on the quest. But she's also not like, I can't take you on the quest. And I understand both people here, but I'll get into it. I'll get into it in a second. Percy then goes to the Poseidon cabin. He has a wheel that was like damaged from the chariot. He's going to get a replacement from another team, is his plan. Tyson says that he wrote Sally a letter. Percy should too. He's such a sweetheart, Tyson. I love him. Tyson made Percy a new compass to take on his quest. And he says that he can fix the wheel. Percy's like, I was just going to ask someone else for a spare. Tyson is fixing the wheel, and he asks when he can meet Poseidon. Percy's like, that's up to Poseidon. He fixes the wheel super quickly, and Percy's like, do you want to leave the cabin? Because Percy's like, perfect, we'll team up. He'll get the chariot all swanked out. The chariot race was a very interesting sequence. I don't have many notes on it. Tantalus and Mr. D bet. They're like making bets. Tyson wants to make Poseidon proud, but he doesn't want to hurt anybody. And Percy's like, just focus on defense, but don't target Annabeth. Meanwhile, Annabeth in her chariot is telling her sister Bronte that if the Poseidon team is pulling ahead to take them out, she's like, I thought you were tight with Percy. And she's like, that's why I'm telling you to do it. She's a genius. She's a genius. This is a great sequence. I really don't have many notes. It was just very, very compelling to watch and very beautiful. And I have to say, like, the set design, the world building, it's like so good. Like, I feel very entrenched. I feel very in the world. Like, I really feel like the story that I read is like coming to life in a very beautiful way. Like, the set design is gorgeous. The sequences are like so beautiful. Like, it's so compelling to watch. I really, really enjoyed it. It was great. I just don't have many notes on like what happened because nobody wins. Spoiler. The demon birds penetrate the force field and they begin to attack the campers. Clarice is the only one who continues the race. She's still going around the track while everybody else is being attacked by the demon pigeons. Percy asks Annabeth what to do, and she says that Hercules used noise to defeat them. They need to go to Chiron's office. They get a boom box and they play Mariah Carey really loudly, and the high note scares them away. So funny. Love this. After the demon pigeons attack, they have a meeting, and Mr. D says that the races will be rescheduled as soon as the damage is repaired to the track. Tantalus says that the barrier will not fail. He spoke to the nature spirits. They will not fail for at least a week, and then everybody's on their own to fend for themselves. He says the key to survival was told to him in a dream. They have to get the golden fleece. He gives the coordinates, but he gives them wrong. And he crowns Clarice the winner of the race because she's the only one who kept going, who didn't give up. Percy stands up to say the dream actually came to him, and those coordinates aren't even right. And they all boo him. They're sick and tired of Percy. Like, he went on one quest, and now he's like, he's the king of the quests. Every season, they're going to be like, fuck you, Percy. This isn't your quest. I'm just kidding. But next season, even worse. He's going to be like, I need to go on this quest. And they're going to be like, no. And he's like, I need to go on this quest. Clarice says that she will save camp. She gets to pick 2 people. Percy asks Annabeth what their plan is. And she like doesn't answer him, but she stands up. Volunteer says Clarice will need somebody who's been on a quest before. Clarice agrees, picks Annabeth. Then Percy stands up to volunteer, says, you'll need somebody who's good with the sea. We're going to the Sea of Monsters. Pick me. A few other people volunteer. Clarice and Percy like exchange a look as if she's going to pick him. And then Annabeth whispers something in Clarice's ear. And Clarice then picks Chris Rodriguez instead, who I do not believe volunteered at all. Like, a few other people stood up. I don't think he even was like, I'll go. Maybe he did, and I missed it. Tantalus says nobody is allowed to leave camp unless you've been approved to go on the quest. Border Patrol is allowed to shoot anybody who goes beyond the borders. Don't leave camp, basically. These are the rules. Don't leave camp or you'll die. Percy heads back He's upset that he didn't get chosen to be on this quest. He runs into Tyson outside of the Poseidon cabin, and Tyson asks if Percy got the quest, and he says no, Clarice did. He's upset. He thought that despite their differences, Clarice would have picked him, but then Annabeth whispered something in her ear, and she didn't pick him. And Tyson's like, you mean like she did to Bronte? And like whispered something to Bronte, and Percy's like, what are you talking about? And Tyson, because he's a Cyclops and he can verbatim recite what people have said, in Annabeth's voice and then Bronte's voice, recites the whole conversation, right? Percy feels very betrayed. He's angry. And I understand both perspectives here because Annabeth doesn't want Percy to die. Valid. Percy feels like Annabeth has lied to him and betrayed him, and she's not being straight up because she doesn't want to be like, you're going to die. You know, I will say the great prophecy, I can recite it from memory, is a half-blood of the eldest god shall reach 16 against all odds and see the world in endless sleep. The hero's soul cursed blade shall weep. A single choice to end his days, Olympus to preserve a rate. Now, that says he's going to live to be at least 16. He's 14 now. He's got 2 good years. I'm kidding. But also, I get it. They don't want him to die before that. But it's like, if Percy dies at 14, then like, does that mean you just have some more time to prepare for the end of the world? Obviously, I don't want Percy to die. And obviously, they think he's the king, he's the son of the prophecy. They haven't met Nico yet. Like, they don't know that there's anybody else. You know, they thought it was Thalia. She died. Then it's Percy, who, you know, I get it. But like, why are they so worried about Percy going on this quest? If he dies at 14, that just means he wasn't for the great prophecy. I mean, obviously you don't want Percy to die. I don't want Percy to die either. I'm just like, you know, he's got at least a couple good years. He will reach 16 against all odds. But I get it. Annabeth doesn't want to tell him that he'll die at 16. Or he won't, but that maybe he'll die at 16. And they like, I understand both perspectives. I do. Percy is angry about this betrayal, and he begins to pack up his cabin. Tyson doesn't want him to leave. He doesn't want to be all alone. And Percy's like, you'll be safe here. Percy goes to sleep. He has a dream. Grover's there. Grover's in the Poseidon cabin. And then they switch clothes, and Percy is wearing a wedding dress because Grover's wearing a wedding dress. Grover's like surprised by Tyson being there because he's a Cyclops. And mind you, Grover is also currently being trapped by a Cyclops who's trying to kill him. So he doesn't have the best opinion of Cyclops right now. Grover asks how Annabeth feels about Tyson, and Percy says he doesn't care. Grover can sense that Percy feels betrayed again because they have this empathy link. And Percy explains last year he chose Annabeth to go on the quest knowing full well that there was a good chance she would betray him, because the last prophecy was, I don't have that one memorized, but it was something about like, you will fail to save what matters most in the end, and you will be betrayed by somebody who calls you a friend. I don't remember the beginning. I'm so sorry. The great prophecy, I have that locked down. The rest, I don't remember. Anyways, so something about like, you will be betrayed by one who calls you a friend. You will go east, you will go west and find the god that is turned. You will find what was stolen and see it safely returned. You will fail to save what matters most in the end, and you will be betrayed by somebody who calls you a friend. Something along those lines. I might have missed a line. Anyways, he knew that somebody who called him a friend could betray him. He picked Annabeth knowing that she could betray him. It wasn't Annabeth, it was Luke. Luke betrayed him. Luke tried to kill him at the end of season 1. Yada, yada, yada. I'm assuming you've seen it. If not, you know. But she didn't. She had many opportunities and she didn't betray him. And now she has. And Grover says he's not taking sides. He doesn't have all the facts. But he asks if Percy has explored the possibility that Annabeth had good reason to do so. Grover did with Mrs. Dodds. Because basically, it didn't explain this, but in season 1, Grover, when we meet Percy Jackson, he is at this school. Grover's his one friend. He doesn't know he's a satyr. Chiron is his teacher. And this other teacher is actually a monster. She attacks Percy. Percy kills her. And Percy gets expelled for causing a disruption. And he's like, but Mrs. Dodds attacked me. And they're like, we've never had a teacher named Mrs. Dodds. And Grover just goes along with the gaslighting. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. We've never had a teacher named Mrs. Dodds. Like, what are you talking about? Even though he knows, obviously, because he is a satyr and he can see through everything, and he knows that there was a monster that Percy killed. Anyway, so this is what he's referring to when he's like, I had good reason to. And Percy's like, but that's because Chiron told you to. So that starts clicking in his head. He's like, okay, Annabeth had a conversation with Chiron. Now she's acting different. Maybe the two are connected. The ground rumbles. Polyphemus is coming back, and Grover explains that he's wearing a wedding dress and a veil. He puts on a veil because Polyphemus doesn't have the best eyesight, and he, under the veil, thinks that Grover is just a lady cyclops, and he smells like a goat because he's wearing goat perfume to entice him. So he's like holding him off until his wedding. He's like, we're getting married in this amount of days, and that is preventing Polyphemus from getting too close to him and like revealing that he's not, actually a cyclops. So he's like, you need to get here eventually. Okay, you need to get here quickly. He's gonna figure out I'm a goat and eat me. He puts on the veil. He's like, how do I look? Percy's like, you look beautiful. And then Percy wakes up from his dream. Percy slips out of the Poseidon cabin. The satyr minion, again, who does not have a name, I'm so sorry, to that goat, he sees him. Percy goes to the water. He tells his dad that he's not asking for help or permission, but he needs to know that he won't stop him because after all, he can. He's the god of the sea. He asks for a sign, and then Hermes, played by Lin-Manuel Miranda, appears, and he brought gifts and a message from Poseidon, quest approved. Percy's like, that's all he said. And Hermes is like, your dad was never really the god of like many words. And Percy's like, well, you're the god of liars and thieves. Hermes replies, well, I invented the lyre which some thieves stole, but why harp about it? That cracked me up. I can't lie. That made me laugh. That made me giggle. That made me smile. And Hermes tries to reason with Percy. He's like, we're cousins. I helped you out with that thing in Vegas last season. And Percy's like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And Hermes says, what happens in Vegas is the reason for half the kids in the Hermes cabin. But I never got any of them a present like that. And then a cruise ship appears in the distance. And he's like, you got me this cruise ship? And he's like, no, you need to go on the cruise ship. I got you a ride. It's going where you need to go. Annabeth knocks on the door of the Poseidon cabin, and Tyson answers, and he's like, oh, you came to see me. It's so lonely in here. It's creepy alone. And she's like, where is Percy? And Tyson is like, he left because he was upset about what you said to Bronte. He went on not a quest, or whatever a solo quest is. He says, I know a quest is an adventure with 3 friends, but what is it called when one friend leaves without telling anybody? And Annabeth begins to panic a little bit because she's like, where is he? What do you mean he's leaving by himself? He's going to die. I can't have him die. I was supposed to stop him from going on this quest. Now he's leaving camp illegally. He's not allowed to go on the quest. He's going to die. So Annabeth obviously panics. Hermes gives Percy a few gifts, one being a thermos with winds. Don't open it all at once or you'll go crazy, but it will push you a little forward on your journey. And then vitamins that make you feel like yourself again. Very important for future episodes. If you know, you know. And Percy asks Hermes what he wants. And he says the same thing as Percy, to save his friend. And Percy's like, this is unbelievable. I've tried to do everything right, and I can barely get my dad's attention. But Luke is trying to destroy Olympus, and you are trying to save him. And Hermes says, he's my son. Percy replies, he hates you. And Hermes just repeats, he's my son. Chills. I didn't particularly care about Hermes in the books. He was a throwaway. Obviously, he's an important character, but he was not a god that I was particularly drawn to. And I really like him in the show. Same with Dionysus. I found Dionysus insufferable in the books. And he's funny. There's a levity to him in the show that I appreciate. Even Tantalus, who I genuinely did not remember very clearly. There's another new guy who comes in the Battle of the Labyrinth, who's a new camp director. I got him confused with Tantalus a little bit. I'm gonna remember Tantalus now. I'm gonna remember him. They did a good job with the casting. Even the Grey sisters, that sequence was super funny. The casting was so well done. The set building and the costuming is all so compelling. I'm such a big fan of how the show looks. I also think casting is phenomenal. Not only the minor characters, I'm more interested in them than I was in the books, but also the main characters, what they're bringing to their roles is so good. I love it. I love it. I really love the casting of the show. Percy doesn't think that Luke can be saved. He doesn't want to be saved. And Hermes is like, that's the first wrong thing you've said. You can't give up on your family. And then he's like, you have a limited time to make up your mind. The cruise ship is almost at a distance of the boat. And Percy's like, what boat? He turns to the ocean, and then there's a boat there, and then he turns back and Hermes is gone, but the supplies are there for him to take. Annabeth comes, and Percy starts loading the supplies onto the boat, which was really funny because at first he was like, this doesn't mean that I'm going to Hermes after he disappeared. But then Annabeth comes, and suddenly he starts loading things onto the boat as if he is 100% going. That was funny. He's like, you know what? I am going. You can't tell me what to do. He starts loading supplies onto the boat. He says she can't talk him out of it. And she says that she can't lose another friend. He knows that Chiron told her something. What was it? She says that he couldn't go on this quest. And he's like, I figured, but why? And she's like, I can't tell you. And he asks why. And she's like, everything has changed because she has this information. She knows that he is destined to die at 16. Everything has changed for her because now she's viewing all her interactions with Percy as like, he will reach 16 against all odds. He might not even reach 16. And if he does, then he's got a death sentence. Like, this is such a heavy thing for her to know. That's obviously changing the way she's interacting with Percy. That's all she can say. He has to trust her. And he agrees. Everything has changed. She's changed. He says, I don't know what happened to you this year. And obviously you don't want to tell me that either. And that's fine. But all of it used to be a secret, kept from me my whole life. And then I came here and I met you and I thought I was done with secrets. And then Annabeth confesses that she didn't like it. She hated the real world. It was boring. She didn't like it. She was bored. She didn't like it at all. And his first response is, did you watch Jaws? Which was funny to me because, like, low-key me, if somebody was confessing to me that they were having a mental breakdown and they were like, the world sucks, I would be like, have you watched Yellow Jackets though? Like, have you tried watching Yellow Jackets? Maybe watch Yellow Jackets. I'm just kidding. But like, I understood him in this moment. That was so funny. She's like, it was all boring. I hated it. And he's like, but what about Jaws? That made me laugh. I love Percy Jackson. I love him. She says that when you've been hunted by a three-headed hound in the underworld, scary movies are a joke. She says, that's the difference between me and you. You can be a demigod and you can go home to your mom and just be a kid. Me, I just know how to be a demigod. And he replies, and that means we can't be friends? Because I don't believe that. I think when you talk about stuff, it gets less scary. So why don't you tell me about this other thing? And she says that's the thing. The more she talks about it, the scarier it will get. And this moment was so deeply like impactful for me because I think a big way that I view the show, and not just because when I wrote my senior thesis in English, I wrote it about disability in young adult fiction. And I talked about Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson was like my jumping off point. A big thing I analyzed in my thesis was about the two worlds in Percy Jackson, as well as other books that talked about disability, is like the way that your disability functions very much as like a bridge between two worlds a lot of the times. And I think this is so interesting because Annabeth and Percy have very different experiences with the outside world. For Percy, it's like an escape. It's normalcy. Like that was like comfort for him. For Annabeth, she was an outcast. She ran away. And obviously Percy was an outcast too, but he had some safety. He had some stability. He had his mom. He had her. Annabeth didn't have anybody. She ran away, and camp was the first time she felt at home. She feels much more at home and calm and safe and comfortable. And she knows the ropes more at Camp Half-Blood. Whereas Percy, this is still new to him. And it was like, he didn't really quite know who he was. And he spent all this time not understanding his role in the two worlds, to the point where now he has a fondness for one world. You know what I mean? And this becomes a very big thing with like the whole Percy and Rachel storyline. More than that's like a love triangle, because it's really not. It's more about like what Rachel represents and being like mortal and that escape for Percy. And I think this was just a very interesting building block of like Percy and Annabeth's differences and the ways that they misunderstand each other because they have such different lived experience. It was just so beautiful. Like he just wants to connect with her in a way that he knows how, in a way that is like normal for him with his friends. But what is normal for her is being a demigod, is thinking about battle plans, is thinking about strategy, and like it was just so fascinating. It was so beautiful, and she obviously has struggled to tell him that she didn't like the real world because he wanted her to connect with that, and she wanted to have that connection. It was just so beautiful. And Percy and Annabeth are a relationship that I love so deeply, and one that I think, and I was thinking about this a lot recently. I think part of the reason I love it so much, and I'm like, this is like pure romance for me, is because there's like a deep love and care for each other before anything romantic happens. And obviously there's an undercurrent of like they obviously have crushes on each other, but it's very innocent and very, we just love each other as people. We're getting to know each other as people without the like pretense of like an adult relationship, in the same way where it's like, I don't know, there's just something about that I crave, because I so deeply want somebody to love me as a person before they love me as a romantic partner. Like, this would be my dream scenario. But obviously I'm an adult and these are children, and it's a very different environment. So I'm not trying to compare what I would want in an adult relationship to this, but I think there's just something very appealing about that, like friends to lovers slow burn, because it's like, they're just, it's so innocent. It's like not even a like, I want to care about this because I want us to be together. Like, this difference means we can't be together. No, it's just, this difference means what? We can't even be in each other's lives. We can't even be friends. We can't even know and care for each other. Like, we can't talk because you have a different experience. Like, it's so just pure, and we can't even be friends. Not even like we're incompatible romantically. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making sense, but it was just such a beautiful moment. Like, clearly this was like an elephant in the room. She didn't want to tell him that she didn't like it, but she didn't. It was hanging over her head. She didn't like it. And she thought Percy would judge her for it. And it was just a beautiful moment. Percy just wants to connect with her like on a human level of like what is normal to him, the way he connects with his friends in the real world, like outside of this. But I don't know, it was so beautiful. And I also understand like Annabeth is carrying the weight of like, he's gonna die at 16, and I know that, and he can't know that, and I'm supposed to like look out for him. It's all very heavy. It's all very charged. It's all very, very, very deeply beautiful. Like, just the love that these two people are developing for each other, just as people, before it becomes anything more than that. And I loved it. And even like the way he talks about how everything was a secret growing up, but then he met her and like things made sense and there weren't secrets. Annabeth says the more she talks about it, the scarier we'll get. Tantalus interrupts and he's like, do you want to finish your heartfelt moment before I kill you? And they're like, you're going to shoot us? Like, the gods will see. And he's like, good. I hope they see. I hope they see that I'm upholding their laws. I hope they see that. Very interesting. And I think Tantalus is a very interesting character in that, I don't know the story. I don't know what he did, but I feel like if anything, if he shows anything, it's that torturing people doesn't make them kinder or like better. Like, I think consequences to your actions, obviously, like repercussions. I don't think you should just hurt people and like not be held accountable. But I also think that punishing people and torturing people, like, I just don't believe cruelty makes cruel people kinder. And I don't know his story. And obviously in Greek mythology, they torture people out the wazoo. Like, that's the whole thing. They just want people to suffer. I'm just against that. And Tantalus is a great example. He's an asshole. He's like, I want these children to die. He is going to shoot an arrow. The arrows are like tipped with celestial bronze, which he explains kills monsters and demigods. Again, we get like little hints of backstory, so you don't need to know everything about the world to get more information. If you know, you know, but if you don't, they explain things to you very well in a way that is very accessible to like a younger audience, which I think is good. Tyson comes out of the forest and he tackles Tantalus, stops him from shooting the arrow. They jump into the raft. They start going away. Tantalus shoots an arrow and it hits the raft and like the air begins to go out of it, but Tyson fixes it. As he's fixing it, Tantalus shoots another arrow and Percy stops the arrow that was the last one. Tantalus is pissed off that he couldn't stop them, And as they're driving away, or not driving away, as they're going away, he yells like, "You can't come back. You broke the law. You're forbidden from ever coming back." Annabeth is like, "He's right. We can't come back. Like, we broke the law. He's right. We can't come back." Tyson, meanwhile, is like, "We're going on a quest." Like, he's so excited. The episode ends with like their boat inching closer to the big cruise ship. Changes in this episode. I know in the book, this Hermes thing happens a little bit differently. I believe the Clarice picking people for the quest also happens differently. I know obviously Tyson, Annabeth, and Percy end up being the three to go to the cruise ship. In the book also, it's not like a raft. It's like these hippocampi that like take them. So that's different. Like there are some minor differences, nothing that I think is too important, to be quite honest. I don't know. I have never seen The Sea of Monsters, the movie, because when I was younger, I was a bit of a book purist. And I'm not a book purist anymore, because I think as I've gotten older and as I've grown fond of television as a medium, in my mind, I'm like, they're two different mediums. So it's not like one is, like I'm not trying to be like, it needs to be exactly like the book, but just transported it into the movie, because it's a different form of art. So it's going to capture things differently. And I think they should do what makes the best TV show, not do something that is like the book, how I imagined it. And I think a lot of the things that were important to me are exactly how I imagined it. Like the look, it feels so real. Percy's humor is a lot more present in this season so far than it was in season 1. The pacing feels a lot like faster paced and fun, which the book has always felt. Like season 1, it felt a lot heavier and like slower and like dragged on in a weird way. That this season so far, the pacing is good and like the humor is good. And there are like improvements in my opinion, like characters that I didn't particularly care about in the book, I'm like fond of, or I'm enjoying. Like Tantalus, again, I said earlier that I like really didn't remember him. I am going to remember him now. Like he was memorable to me. The Grey sisters were really funny to me. I liked them in the book, but like I really liked them in the show. I really like Hermes in the show. Didn't care at all for Hermes in the book. And Dionysus is the biggest one that I did not like him at all in the book. I found him insufferable, and I find him really, really enjoyable. I find him funny. He's like it's well done. And of course, I would be remiss to not talk about how wonderful like the casting of the main characters is. Walker is so good as Percy. Leah is so good as Annabeth, and they're really coming into their own. Like the acting is better as well. They're clearly becoming more comfortable in the roles. I'm excited to see how the series will progress, because they're just getting better and better. And I'm like so confident in the route that the show is going. And yeah, this, interestingly enough, this is my second recording of this, which I've already said. And it was shorter than the first one. So I guess I went on less tangents, maybe because I'm more tired. I hope I didn't forget anything, but I think I'm probably fine. Any disclaimers, introduction stuff that I didn't say at the beginning, because I was just trying to get into the groove of re-recording this again. If you enjoyed the episode, like and subscribe. As I'm figuring out this video formatting thingy, it might take me a while, but we'll see how things go. Hopefully this take worked. But yeah, as I figure out this new era of the Emmy Awards, please bear with me. But I Love LA recap, and I'm gonna do episodes 7 and 8 together. So my next episode, I think I'll try to do the Percy Jackson episode immediately, and then like as soon as this goes live, I'll try to do episode 3, and then after episode 8 of I Love LA airs, I'll recap that and episode 7 and 8 together and wrap that up in a separate video, just because I feel like the audiences are different. And I want like the target audience for Percy Jackson to be able to just watch an episode without, like, I don't want to incorporate a show. Like sometimes on this podcast, I will like recap 2 separate shows. I don't want to do that for Percy Jackson and I Love LA, because I'm like, I want the Percy Jackson episodes to just be appropriate for that audience. And I want the I Love LA episode to then, because in my mind, I'm like, that it's different genres. I want people who are the target audience for Percy Jackson to be able to appropriately just watch one video without the second half being about a show that is maybe not appropriate for them. But anyways, those are all my thoughts about Percy Jackson season 2, episodes 1 and Two, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Like and subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube. Any feedback about the audio, the background, the video, I don't really know. I'm figuring this out as I go. So if it sucks, I'm sorry. I'm figuring it out. Share with a friend. Follow me wherever you listen to podcasts. All the good stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode.